Hello, and welcome to Security Weekly News. It's episode 453 on Friday, February 21st, and we've got a show filled with AI, OpenSBK, DeFi, Cloud Key Management, CISA, Ivanti, SOC with AI, the False Claims Act, and more. So, let's get to it.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Imagine a world where every threat, ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, is stopped before it can even begin. ThreatLocker makes that world a reality with a zero-trust approach to cybersecurity. By giving you granular control on every executable that can happen in your environment, ThreatLocker protects your business around the clock. No more guessing, no more gaps, just rock-solid protection that keeps your operations running smoothly and your data secure. Discover how ThreatLocker's least privilege approach can safeguard your organization against known and unknown threats. Take the first step toward total peace of mind. Visit securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker today.
All right, so we're back at Security Weekly News. It's Friday, and I'm here alone today. I don't have Dr. Doug, I don't have Jason, I don't have Aaron. They're all busy. Oh, well, I'll live. Let's go. Let's get to work. I got some great stories today. I really am excited about some of these. Some of them are funny, some of them are interesting, and some of them are just plain fascinating stuff. My first story is about the False Claims Act. So the DoD has something called the False Claims Act. If you say, hey, we are certified or we're compliant, we're secure, we're whatever, and in actuality, you're not, and they can prove it, they can fine you, and they can find some pretty hefty numbers. So that's called the False Claims Act. You're falsely claiming that you're secure, compliant, handling things properly, etc. You know, I helped write CMMC, which is the first version of I wrote the first version, or helped write the first version of CMMC, which is the Department of Defense standard for their contractors, the DIB, the Defense Industrial Base. The fear was that the False Claims Act would really chill that entire market. In reality, they've been very careful with their prosecutions, but in this case, one of the DoD contractors, it was a healthcare service, Health Net Federal Services, just had to pay $11.2 million for false cyber certification claims. They didn't listen to their vulnerability scanners. They didn't listen to their third-party auditors or pen testers. They didn't care about anything, apparently. So it's terrifyingly bad. And frankly, the fact that they only had to pay $11.2 million is kind of impressive. I will tell you that it's not good. I'm going to go into a little more depth on this one because I think it's interesting. There was, in 2018, every single DIB contractor was supposed to be compliant with 800-171, NIST 800-171 by the end of 2018. Yeah, they weren't. So the Department of Defense rolled out CMMC, and it's taken since 2020, when I started working on it, until now. It just became law, and it is going to start being issued as contracts over the next few months and years. Well, they're going to see a lot more False Claims Acts coming up, because I will tell you that there's an incredible amount of companies out there that they have problems, and it's been cheaper to ignore the problems than actually to fix them. So I think it's fascinating that they have to go to such levels and have such sanctions available to them to make these companies actually do the job right. A little terrifying and a little problematic, but hey, apparently it's going to get better. We shall see. So, and especially with Katie Arrington just being confirmed, I think she was confirmed as the CISO for the DoD, and she's the one that started the CMMC in the first place. I think CMMC is going to continue the law of the land. Okay. So a fascinating article, but happy to go into more detail. If anybody's interested, let me know. So Google did an interesting one today, or actually a few days ago. They added, for their cloud KMS, which is their key management system, they added quantum resistant digital signatures. All right. So what does that mean? Honestly, it's fascinating because what it is we're starting to see post-quantum cryptography popping up in various places. Now, if you're familiar with this, if you have an iPhone, you've already had post-quantum cryptography for the last, I think it's roughly 2 years now. Your iMessage has been using post-quantum Kyber for about 2 years. And if you use Signal, you've been using post-quantum dilithium for, again, about the last 2 years, which is, I've been doing that. You didn't even know. They just put that in invisibly, transparently behind the scenes. So the fact that Google is using quantum resistant or post-quantum digital signatures, okay, so it's really starting to happen. Well, why? Why is everybody moving so fast on this? And it's not fast. No, it's fast. Changing cryptographic algorithms happens very, very, very rarely. Very, very, very rarely. And so for this to happen with such sort of speed of implementation, it's kind of impressive. Well, there's a couple of reasons. I believe it's the Department of Defense set 2030 as the deadline for being post-quantum resistant. And NIST has set 2035. So we're about a little less than 10 years away by a month or two, but it's less than 10 years away to being fully post-quantum resistant. And if you'll recall, TLS 1.2 end of life's this year. So we have to upgrade to TLS 1.3 and post-quantum cryptographic algorithms. So yeah, it's time to start moving, people. So Google added quantum-resistant digital signatures to its cloud KMS, which should make it easier for people to use post-quantum resistant cryptographic algorithms in their work, in their development work, and handling their keys, etc. So this is cool and good job, and I love to see it. Hope to see more of it in the very near future. In my story number 3, we have a lovely, lovely problem. I enjoy this article because honestly, I think it's a great article. Cloud permissions suck. It doesn't say that. I used a little artistic license, forgive me. But the idea here is that when 20, 30 years ago, we had perimeters, we had firewalls, we had, VPNs and things like that. Now we don't have that. Now we just let's throw it in the cloud, let everybody see it. Yeah. And that's a problem because now IAM, this is something they say in this article. I think it's interesting. IAM is the new perimeter. So identity and access management is the new perimeter. Fascinating because anybody can get to it. There's no real perimeter anymore where I stop somebody and say, hey, are you allowed in? The IAM systems are the authentication authorization systems for things. Everybody can get to it, but my IAM systems are the ones stopping them from breaking in. All right. So is that a problem? Well, yeah, it's a big problem. IAM systems were never really designed as perimeter systems. They were designed to augment or be the trigger for the systems that shut you out or shut a cyber criminal out. Well, nowadays they're the wall as well as the keys. So one of the things in the article that I loved was Tenable said that there's a toxic cloud trilogy, the dangerous combination of publicly exposed, critically vulnerable, and highly privileged cloud workloads. Oh, that's so well said. It's all public because it's all in the cloud. It's vulnerable because IAM, some of these systems have problems. And they're highly privileged because if you can break in using an IAM exploit, you're typically at a high level of privilege. This is a problem. So IAM has to be put into its place as a strong topic of something we have to build out and make sure that it doesn't have gaps. So effectively what this article is saying is that IAM systems have huge gaps because we don't think that way, because we don't think of the IAM as the perimeter. And so it's a problem. So there's detection issues, there's exploit issues, there's just, I didn't think that identity needed to be over there. Well, it does. It needs to be everywhere. It needs to be as pervasive and ubiquitous as a firewall was as a perimeter 20 years ago. Okay, so we've got a lot of work to do. And as a matter of fact, this goes along with things like AI. If you don't understand that your data assets have to be protected to make sure that AI can or cannot access them and use them and ingest them, well, we've got the same issue there. So just as we're using hint as a strategy, if we say, hey, we want to protect our data from AI, so we want to make sure that it only ingests the data we want it to ingest, that is one of the best ways you can have to, along the way, fix and get budget to fix your IAM systems to be better, stronger, faster. Okay. So hope that helps. This next article I put in almost under protest. It's like I protested myself, so joke, but it's a lot of hype. Transforming SOCs with AI. Now, it's a Cloud Security Alliance article. I love the Cloud Security Alliance. They're nice people. They do great stuff. I used to be a VP of the Delaware Valley chapter of the Cloud Security Alliance. But is AI really going to be magic? And the answer is no. AI isn't magic. It's just that simple. There is no magic in AI. AI is a fantastic tool. It is not a replacement for you. It is not a replacement for me. And it is not a replacement for the person sitting next to you at the office on the 3 days a week you go into the office or whatever. It is a fantastic tool to use to do collation of data, correlation of data, and some analysis of data. But it does not have the human aspect, the critical faculties that allow us to determine causation. Since it cannot determine causation, these AI tools are incredibly useful to make us more efficient, but we're still necessary. So you want to transform a SOC with AI? Absolutely cool. Use it so that a SOC analyst doesn't have to do 75 tabs to get all the information about that IP address or that piece of malware or whatever. And tools like Google Chronicle are doing exactly that. Okay, they're using AI as a tool, but they're not assuming that it's going to take over the SOC. So read the article. It's a good article. It's actually well done, but read it with a little bit of salt, if that makes sense, a grain of salt. Okay, AI is a tool. It is not a replacement. I want to be clear on that. There are some things that I wish would be replaced. One of them would be Ivanti. Nothing against Ivanti. Apparently, the company is a nice company, is what I've heard, but their products have had some issues. There is proof of concept exploits for 4 critical Ivanti endpoint manager bugs that have just been released. So if you didn't install the patches, do it now. Okay, the 4 vulnerabilities were CVE 2024-10811, 13161, 13160, and 13159. As you can see, 3 of them are sequentially numbered. They were like right there all together, and exploit codes have been released for all of them. Yay! If you have those, if you have Ivanti and you installed the January update, supposedly they're fixed. I do not know if they actually are, but supposedly they were fixed. If you haven't done the January update, may I recommend you do it fast? Okay, it's a detail, but I would update that sucker. So the proof of concept exploit code has been released. They are critical, they're ugly, they're path traversal flaws, and unauthenticated attackers can do nasty things with them. So it's not like anybody on anywhere on the web can do nasty stuff with your Ivanti installation, but if they can reach an API endpoint, which is supposed to be available to most people, depending on how you've set it up, yeah, that's a problem. Okay, so I want to be clear on this. Whatever you do, make sure that your Ivanti systems are updated. Well, Josh, I mean, are we still doing patch management? Yes. Hi, old guy, curmudgeon. Please do your patch management and your change management properly. Do you have your asset inventory? How about your data flow diagrams? Do I need to come there and wag my finger at you? Don't make me do that. All right? All right, next article. CISA, advisories for critical vulnerabilities. Yay, more vulnerabilities. We need more vulnerabilities in life. I mean, don't you? So they're ICS advisories. Now, interesting. So CISA is now in the ICS game to an extent. They do ICS, they do OT, they do a lot of stuff. And as a matter of fact, they cover a pretty wide swath of the market. So they're good people, actually. I like them a lot. They have critical vulnerabilities in products from ABB, Siemens, Mitsubishi Electric, and other people. These are OT flaws, OT vulnerabilities. So what does it matter? Well, honestly, I don't know who has these specific pieces of hardware, pieces of equipment, but I wanted to point out, not only is CISA actually doing work with the ICS SCADA OT markets, but that you probably have some you didn't even think about. Even in an office building, there's a building management system. That is technically OT equipment. It uses PLCs, it uses sensors, it uses industrial grade stuff, and it normally has pretty crappy security. So even if you don't have a factory floor, you probably have an office. And if you do, you probably want to keep track of what's going on in the office. When's the last time you did an asset inventory and you did a discovery of all the assets on your network? I know at least one company that I went, you told me you have 2,000 endpoints. They're like, yeah. I said, you have 17,000 endpoints because we did a scan because you don't take the client's word for anything. And they said, we don't have 17,000 endpoints. So I showed them the scan results and they're like, that's not ours. I'm like, it's on your network. Turns out the BMS, the building management system, was on their network because when they installed it, the building didn't have internet. They'd been there since the building was built. And they had internet, So because they got in their office early, they set up Wi-Fi and everything else before everybody else moved in. And so the building asked the engineer that was there, hey, can we get on your network for a few weeks? And he said, sure. And then he got another job and nobody knew. And they'd been on the company's network using their bandwidth for like 4.5 years at that point. I mean, it gets ugly fast. So the point is that you may have OT, ICS SCADA stuff on your network you may not even know about. Now, obviously, in that case, we got them off the network and all of a sudden their bandwidth improved. Shocking. But you may have stuff on your network that you're responsible for, you may not know about. It may have been abandoned. I'll tell one of my own stories really quickly. When it was a long time ago, we had an alarm from a server ringing from inside a support column for the building. They walled up a server. And this was not just any server. This was a dumb terminal server. This is how old this story is. This was for an AS400 that we knew about. It was in the other room. And we had Hummingbird emulators for most everybody that needed access to it. There was one person still using a dumb terminal. And there was a thing taking like 3 240 volt electric connections for this one person. Yeah, that was 3 days of what the hell is going on here until we figured out what was going on and issued her a PC with a Hummingbird 3270 emulator, got her back up and running, no problems. My point is that, and that's just for fun because that story, I love it. We literally I'm like, where's that alarm coming from? It's in the support column. Move this book. We moved the bookcase. There was a door there. Anyway, so be careful. You don't know what's on your network until you actually know what's on your network, which is why you should be doing an asset inventory. Wait, didn't I just talk about that? That's right. Curmudgeon, old guy. Please do an asset inventory. Okay, that way you know what you're responsible for. So these CISA advisories are everything from monitoring to memory corruption. There's some of them that in here that risk patient data. There's some of them in here that risk customer data. It can be ugly. Okay, there's access control vulnerabilities used for physical access control. People can get in doors they're not supposed to. Oh, that's right. You have door access controls and prox cards and things like that. That's OT equipment. Okay, so please check it out. If there are vulnerabilities that you're not keeping track of, could people break in and you don't even know it? Got to be careful with this stuff. All right. So, Salt Typhoon. Are we ever going to stop hearing about Salt Typhoon? Not for a while. So just as a review, Salt Typhoon attacks telecom servers and can listen in on conversations using the legal backdoor that was installed in telecom servers. God, I don't even know how many years ago. It's called the Kalea system, C-A-L-E-A. Not Kaleo the band, who I happen to like, but Kalea, the we listen to your phone calls for free and have fun with it from the government, except when it's Salt Typhoon and then it's another government. Oops. And so they break into servers using a custom piece of malware called Jumbled Path. Somebody here actually gave them that name, not here, but in the US. And so what they do is they go after vulnerable Cisco devices, and Cisco, there's a lot of telecom Cisco out there. They go after vulnerable Cisco devices. They have built custom malware, custom code. Okay, so you're saying that this is an attack that targets a very specific set of devices using a CVE that is available, CVE 2023-2198 and 2023-2273. Yes. That can then use the backdoor that's built into these telecom systems, Kalea, to then listen into phone conversations. Got it. Thank you. The big thing there is custom malware. This is enough of a target, even though it's not really dollars and pennies, dollars and cents, but it's enough of a target that they're writing custom malware to get at it. If you're a company and you've had pen testers come in, they'll tell you there's various levels of pen test we can do. We can do a pen test with just a web app pen test. We can write custom code, custom attacks, custom payloads, but that's expensive. So what we're saying is a nation state has taken the time and the money and the effort to write custom code, custom malware to listen to our phone calls. Now, I don't know about you. My phone calls are not that interesting. It's mostly, honey, are you picking up the kids? And what are we doing for dinner? But whatever. But I guess they're probably not listening to me. They're probably listening to government officials and military type people and things like that. So, and they're not even listening to just us. The US, Italy, UK, South Africa, Thailand, a lot of groups. So there's a research group, INSICT, INSIKT. And if I'm mispronouncing it, please, I apologize. Let me know. Please send me a voicemail or call me and tell me how to pronounce it. But INSIKT said that there's more than 12,000 Cisco devices with their web UIs exposed to the internet, which means they're presumably vulnerable to this attack. And interestingly enough, they said that only 8% of the exposed devices were targeted by Salt Typhoon that they can figure out. So it's a very targeted attack. So it's a targeted attack by skilled attackers. Custom malware says that, which basically means this is a horrible, horribly dangerous attack. They are listening to phone calls, and they have been listening to phone calls, and we don't even know how long it's been going on. At least a year or two is what I understand. Okay. There is a new flaw in the products, or it's an old vulnerability with a new flaw, new exploit code written. That's CVE 2018-0171. It's, look, to be very honest, it is kind of terrifying. So the fact is that they're getting in, and then they're lateraling and going sideways effectively to get to more servers and more systems and steal more credentials for other servers and everything else. So what's the big deal? Well, the fact that we've identified that they're using custom malware, and in the article it shows you a little bit of how this jumbled path works. It even includes anti-forensics, clears the logs, impairs the logging. It's pretty cool, like really well done. This is, to be very honest, to show you that this is very possible. And if you have a nation state backing you, this is an issue. Okay. All right. So, where was I? There we are. Okay. This is an article from, what's the magazine name? Cyber Defense Magazine. I liked it. And it really goes back to that other article when I talked about access IAM being a big problem. It's echoing that, but it's interesting that it has a slightly different viewpoint. With modern DevOps and cloud infrastructure exploding in complexity. Okay, so everything's more complex. Well, yeah. So if it's more what do you mean it's more complex? Well, how many containers did you spin up yesterday? Like you did a microservices architecture on the system, and now it's got 17 containers or 500 containers. Oh, well, they're really well orchestrated. I'm using Kubernetes. Yeah, but you're running 500 individual mini servers where I used to have one server running 5 different applications. Well, yeah, so it's more complex than it ever was. Absolutely correct. The complexity lets us be flexible, lets us be error tolerant and error resistant, lets us be much more granular in our systems. So if one thing goes down, I can replace the one thing or invoke a new container. It's fantastic, but it also means that we have a lot more resources to watch over the access. So managing secure access hasn't scaled is what they're saying, which is exactly what the other article was saying as well, but they're going at it from the point of view of infrastructure. I find this fascinating. I find this absolutely fascinating because, to be very honest with you, they're both correct. Everything in cloud is about access in terms of security. Access is our new perimeter. But if we have so many more boxes, 500 containers per application instead of one system, one server for 8 applications or whatever, with so many more containers, so many more boxes, so many more things in my infrastructure, it is incredible how hard it is to keep track of the access. We've got a lot of people, we've got a lot of boxes, a lot of resources. I've got to track access. I run into on a regular basis, companies with more Active Directory groups than they have employees. And when I'm talking to companies with 10,000 employees and they have double that in Active Directory groups, there's a problem. Okay. We have access that it's constantly accreting. It's constantly adding. In no way, shape, or form do we ever slice some off and purge it and clean it up. How many times have you gone through and actually done a full entitlement review? How many times have you gone through and actually looked at what people have access to and then looked at what they should have access to and made sure that your onboarding, your lateraling, your offboarding, all of those different processes are working properly? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, you haven't done it in a while, have you? Well, I mean, it's cool, but it's time to start because if you don't, we're going to have some significant problems. All right, so I've got a couple more quick stories here, and we're doing okay. So there was a DeFi platform, a distributed finance platform called ZK Lend, and I'm hoping it's pronounced that way, ZK Lend, and they lost 9.5 million Like, this is common. There's been, I think, $130 million lost in cryptocurrency from DeFi since the beginning of this year, which is only a few months ago. Like, it's pretty common to have problems with this. But the difference here, the reason I'm bringing this article up is, as much as I talk about cryptocurrency as being primarily operated by scammers these days, ransomware people, scammers, etc., I got to give these guys credit. ZK Lend, they were open, honest, and transparent with what they did. They told everybody what was going on. They locked things down. They advised its users, notified its users to stop making deposits or repaying loans until they investigated everything. They're working with law enforcement. They're working with proper security people to track the stolen assets and identify the culprit. Like, I'm kind of impressed. I'm kind of absolutely bloody well impressed. You know, if you're going to operate in the cryptocurrency world, getting the credibility, getting the trust, getting the ability to stand up straight and go, look, we had a problem, but we are handling the problem properly. I got to give them credit. I am impressed. It's one of the first times in the cryptocurrency world that I've seen things work properly. I am impressed very much, and I want to give them major kudos. The one thing I don't like is that one of the standard things that they do is they put out a message saying, hey, if you, the attacker, give the money back, we'll let you keep 10%. Now, they lost $9.5 million. Okay. And so they'll give him, what is that? 10% of nine and a half, let's call it $10 million. They give him about $1 million. That's not cool. But I hate incentivizing cyber criminals, because all this says is, let me go steal some more money. And if I get 10% back, that it's clean, I don't have to worry about laundering it. It's great. But the problem is that smart contracts and DeFi lending is an issue. Okay. Smart contracts have major issues. There's the Oracle problem. There's the understanding every single aspect of the code that you write problem. There's all kinds of problems with smart contracts, with cryptography in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency world, including, by the way, we mentioned quantum decryption earlier. At some point, you're going to have to transfer all of your wallets into quantum resistant wallets. Anybody that's got a cold wallet that's been just sitting there for 10 years and just ignore, I've got 10 Bitcoin in there, I'm going to wait until they hit 1 million and then I'll sell and I'll retire. If you don't transfer it to a quantum resistant wallet in the next few years, you may lose it. So, and I'll tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of money lost when people transfer their money that they haven't touched in 10 years, haven't touched computers in 10 years in terms of cryptocurrency. And all of a sudden, like, okay, I would have got to do something complex by moving my money to another wallet. Yeah, it's going to be an issue. Okay. So I've got one last story, and it's a little bit personal because I'm part of this. So I hope you'll forgive me. As a matter of fact, it's a story, it's in the show notes, but it doesn't even have, the website isn't even up yet. That'll be up over the next few days, but I've got it pointed to one of the people involved's website just for a temporary right now. But that's OpenSBK. And OpenSBK is a group of people, we're insane, effectively, that wants to define the terms that we use in security and compliance. Now, it's not a for-profit. It's open source. We're going to open source the whole 9 yards. But we really want to define the terms. You'll notice as I've been talking about all these different stories, I've been saying AI is this, but AI is not this. And DeFi has these problems. And, well, part of the problem is that we can't speak apples to apples to each other. So we're working to actually define terminology and actually to do things properly. And so we're going to be meeting at the Marshall College CyberCon down in West Virginia at the end of March, 26th and 27th, I think. Don't quote me on that. Go look at the Marshall College CyberCon. And that's going to be our inaugural event, if I can speak properly, inaugural event to actually sort of christen this and get it moving. We've got right access to PTES. Thank you, Chris Nickerson and Wim and all the people that worked on that. We've got access to several other repositories. And we're going to be building repositories of definitions, because I'll tell you what, I'd love for you to go out and ask a dozen pen testers what the word pen test means, because I did it to actually about 4 dozen of them. I got 4 dozen different definitions. That's not cool. That means that when I say, hey, I want to do it, you need a pen test? Yeah, I need a pen test. Great. It's going to cost you $10,000. They go, that's fantastic, because they expect me to do that custom malware that Jumbled Path did. They expect me to do all the things on a full red team engagement. I'm like, no, I'm going to touch your web apps and see if there's any exploits. And if there are, I'm going to exploit them. That's what a pen test. but our different definitions mean that we have unread expectations of each other. And we're not meeting our expectations properly when we can't do definitions properly. So OpenSBK will be up and running in a few days, and I will put the correct URL there at that point. But if you're interested in coming to West Virginia to help inaugurate all those definitions and help us become a more professional industry, we welcome you. Thank you for watching Security Weekly News on this Friday, February 21st, episode 453, if I remembered it correctly. I'm Josh Marpet, and thank you very much. Have a good night.